Welcome back for another episode of Franchise Nutrition and Fitness Podcast. Again, that's Franchise Nutrition and Fitness. You can find us at franchisenutritionandfitness.com. If you haven't been there already, just go ahead and scroll down to the bottom and click on the schedule tab to be able to get your free meet and greet. If you have questions about anything, go to the very bottom and hit us on the contact link. But my name is Ryan. I'm a registered dietitian.
I'm Matt. I'm a certified personal trainer and certified health coach.
All right. And together we make up Franchise Nutrition and Fitness. So if you've been following along so far in this season, we've talked a lot about different kind of things, all related to nutrition and fitness. But along, inevitably, no matter what you do, whether it's just a nutrition program or just a fitness program, at some point in time, maybe you hit a plateau, or maybe you feel like things are getting stagnant, and maybe you feel like you just need a break. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, is how long would you run any program, and how do you go about planning breaks? So, Matt, in your experience, what's the longest fitness program that you've run?
I'm looking at maybe probably about 16 weeks, like a 4-month program where you're really kind of pushing it. You've got the time to dictate to it. You've got it carved out, but that's a hell of a long program to run it for 4 months. Most of the time I like trying to run programs usually between like 8 and 12 weeks.
Right. As far as a fitness program, I think probably the longest I've ever done a specific program with a specific goal in mind was about 12 weeks. I don't think I've ever gone the 16 weeks. But when it comes to a nutrition program, I can tell you that for a bulk period, personally for me, when I was trying to gain mass, when I started out in the pro wrestling world, I was 142 pounds, and eventually I got up to 215 pounds. But that was a course over like 9 years of time. And there was different places in there where I would get bigger and get smaller. But I think the longest I went with any specific time to get bigger was around 4 or 5 months of getting bigger. And out of all of the times when I would try to cut or get a little bit leaner, I would go about 8 to 10 weeks typically on a cut.
So you seem like you can kind of commit to a nutritional program a little bit longer than you like committing to an exercise program. And I'm the opposite. I hate staying on any sort of nutritional program for an extended period of time. Whereas a lot of times with my own exercise programming, I have to purposefully put breaks in there, because I'll go, oh, geez, I have been training for 16 weeks and didn't think to put a rest week in here, or put a deload week in here, which we'll talk about.
Right. And I think so. That's kind of the other thing when it comes to nutrition. It's a little bit closer to my game. Like, I know the rules a little bit more, and also the rules that nobody ever tells you exist. But the thing that I think happens there a little bit more easily is nutrition is and I'm not disagreeing with the fitness kind of thing, but nutrition is more of a marathon than a sprint. Like, you're not going to see any big changes over weeks of time. It's going to take months of time.
And that's so hard to like counter program everything else that's out there that says otherwise, because the lose 30 pounds in 30 days type stuff, and the before and after pictures in 2 weeks that are clearly BS. So it's you got that working against you as an RD.
Yeah, all the time. The whole thing, like, if you lose, in my world, if you lose any of those magazine article amounts of weight in those periods of time, you're probably clinically malnourished. Like, there's only a few instances where it would be okay if you lost 30 pounds in 30 days. And usually that's a fluid retention problem, that you're retaining 30 pounds of excess fluid and it needs to come off your body or it's going to kill you. So that's about
So,
the only time
so
when
it's healthy weight loss, but it's not the general population.
right. Yeah, that's definitely not like a regular recommendation because so the whole thing. So I know we've talked about it before, but like ketogenic diet specifically is currently very popular. If you do follow that, you will experience a large volume of water loss because you're not you're not consuming the extra carbohydrates and protein that you normally would. And each time, for every gram of carbohydrate or gram of protein, your body requires some amount of fluid to help keep that in your body and working with for you. It's just, the water is the universal solvent, right? So there's plenty of things that get dissolved in that, and water is necessary for a lot of the interactions that occur in our body. So your processing of this carbohydrate or protein is going to require that you hold on to a little bit of water. So when you eliminate a lot of those things, a lot of people that start ketogenic diets will lose somewhere around 7 to like 15 pounds or so inside like the first month, a lot of times. And that's just because of those changes in their diet. But the issue for that comes when they stop doing keto, they gain a lot of that weight back, and it's all because it's retaining fluid again. You're holding a lot of fluid on. I forget what the percentage is. There's some nuts thing, like somewhere around 81% of the weight lost in the first 3 weeks of the ketogenic diet is fluid.
That's always fun talking to people. They're like, hey, yeah, I've dropped 15 pounds in 2 weeks. It's like, good luck with that. It looks good on paper, and depending on what your goals are, awesome. If you want to look nice and lean for some sort of photo shoot or wrestling match or whatever, awesome. But for sustainable weight loss, definitely not what you want to go with.
Right. Yeah. I'll see you again when you've gained all of that weight back. It's gonna be great. But
kind of on the flip side, with you talking about what's popular out there, I always hear, even from a lot of other personal trainers, like, you love hearing muscle confusion. Muscle confusion. You've got to do a different workout every time. You've got to confuse your muscles. And we're talking about programming breaks and constructing a program today. I'm not a huge fan of change for the sake of change. Yes, if you're starting to get physically or mentally burned out with a workout, awesome, let's change it up. But I always tell people when we start a program, you're gonna get used to a lot of the same exercises for several weeks, because that's how we see how we're progressing. If you're doing, dumbbell curls 1 week and I've got you doing something crazy off the wall that has nothing to do with dumbbell curls the next week, how do we see that you've progressed? How do we see if you're lifting more, if you're able to complete more sets, if you're able to complete more reps? So yeah, kind of similar of, hey, let's throw this crazy off the wall thing out there, when really I'm a big fan of, at the end of the day, keep it simple, stupid.
right. Yeah. It's the way that you look at nutrition or fitness coming back and forth from each other. How you measure success with any given program, I think, dictates a lot of how long it's going to last. But also at the same time, we'll talk about this later on, but setting up a SMART goal, something that's specific, but also like the achievable. A is the important thing. Like if you've been like people that are, the elite level here, like you're a USAPL power lifter, right? So USA powerlifting. If you are one of those people and you are on the team, you might only see your weight that you're moving in the gym on any of those specific lifts. So squat, bench, deadlift, it may only increase by like 5 pounds in 6 months. But that over that amount of time, you're doing all of the work in to make that weight go up that incremental amount. But at the same time, those guys are lifting close to 500 or 600 pounds.
Right. And they've been at it forever too. It's always I think very frustrating when you start in sort of strength training routine and you're kind of a noob and you see those weights shoot up, and then years later you're still working out and you're like, geez, like you said, why I'm only up 10 pounds on a lift over the past 6 months. I remember when I first started out, I doubled it overnight. Like,
Yeah, I was talking to a person the other day, and they were telling me how they started on some weight loss program, and they lost all this weight and they got incredibly strong while they were losing all this weight, which theoretically is impossible. But the one place where it is probable is if you are brand new. And so on further questioning, talking to this person, they had not been working out for years and had been living a completely sedentary lifestyle. And what they did was they started following a nutrition program and started an exercise program. And so in that time of over those first 2 months of those things, they got a lot stronger because they were brand new to that activity. It was a brand new stimulus. And they lost a lot of weight because they cut out a lot of stuff that they had been doing before that was concentrated calories, started adding in more sources of wide variety of nutrient rich foods. And because of that, they saw all these weight changes and they got a lot stronger. And I was like, well, it's just because you started eating and exercising better. And that's really it.
and that's what sucks as you go further along. Like your body's adaptable. I always tell people that's the greatest thing and the worst thing about your body, because you can drop all that weight initially, and then as you become more fit, your body becomes more efficient at burning calories and more efficient at doing work. And you're like, oh, this is not good. So you constantly have to follow those principles of progression.
Yeah, I use a lot when it comes to nutrition and body maintenance things. I do a lot of percentages. When it comes to fitness, I've moved to the RPE model, and we'll talk about this in a different episode. But when you start out in the beginning, you can easily get a lot of gains just following a linear progression where you add a specific volume of weight over time. But then, kind of what we're talking about today, you got to get to some point in time when you're going to see that weight doesn't necessarily increase. And so maybe that would dictate a time for a change. And that's kind of what I alluded to earlier, where I haven't really done programs that are longer than 8 to 12 weeks because I've gotten to the point where I was adding weight to whatever. Like I was specifically trying to get stronger in a squat, a low bar squat. So there's two kinds of squats generally in the bigger thought of things. There's a high bar and a low bar squat. A high bar is probably what a lot of people are used to seeing and doing, where the bar is a little bit higher on your neck. That's what dictated to be a high bar. And a low bar, it's a little bit lower on your neck and kind of more rests on your traps and your deltoids, your rear deltoids. And so I was specifically training the low bar squat while I was recovering for my back problem. So I only went 12 weeks because I couldn't do high bar squats, because high bar squats caused me an incredible volume of pain. Low bar squat has a lower shear force on your spine. So it was more beneficial to my back, and I could work that a little bit more easily. But if you train a exercise for so long, kind of more of like a mesocycle, MESO cycle kind of thing, a lot of times you can have mini cycles inside of that break up kind of thing. So if your mesocycle is like a full calendar year, let's just say, just for the sake of example's sake, so that's 12 months, you might have mini cycles that are 3 months inside of there. So you're going to go through 4 separate cycles to help you over a year achieve one goal. But inside of each of those mini cycles, you're going to achieve different goals that lead to.
That's where I train different rep ranges, different number of sets, different moving tempos. Yeah, you name it. So yeah, like you said, doing that low bar squat, there's a lot of ways to manipulate that within different parts of that program.
Right. And so that's the whole thing. So it's just kind of wherever that falls. And so for the sake of what we were talking about, like how long do you run a program really depends on the goal that you have. So
I think that's a lot of times when people initially get back in the gym or get on a program, like you said, it's that absence of a SMART goal. It's like, hey, I just want to get in and I want to lift. Cool. Why are we lifting? Why are we back in the gym? What's your goal? What do you want? What's that, PR you're trying to set, or what's that body fat percentage you're trying to have? So going and having that goal to focus on and then realizing, okay, I'm constructing the program based off that end goal. There we go. Instead of just going, hey, I'm going to the gym today. I'm grabbing a dumbbell. Let's have at it.
right. And so once you achieve a goal, let's start with the simplest goal. Let's say it's the simplest thing you can do on nutrition and fitness kind of thing. Would be on a nutrition side, I would say the simplest thing you can do is add a piece of fruit a day. What's your simplest fitness thing?
Oh, geez. Simplest. I mean, let's say increase a lift by 10%.
Okay, wow, I would say like 5 pounds.
See, I'm thinking, all right. So I shouldn't use percentages in that case because I was thinking of a really low weight for like somebody new. Gotcha. All right. All right. So okay, yeah, to increase the weight by 5 to 10 pounds. All right.
Right,
depending on if we're saying upper body or lower body. All right, gotcha.
But right, that's one simple thing. But I think the simplest goal would be just to go to the gym.
So to say, hey, to get there, to not to this 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. It's hey, like to set foot, get your ass in the gym.
Right. Yeah. So your simple goals there. But and that is an achievable goal. That is a SMART goal. It's very specific. You're just going to go to the gym one time in the next week for 30 minutes a day. All right. So there you go. Specific, measurable, achievable, timely. And once you do that, you've achieved that goal. How many times do you have to repeat achieving that goal before you realize that it's time to create another goal?
Absolutely.
And I think that's really where it comes down to measuring, like, how long do you run a program for and how do you determine it when it's time to break? Is really kind of looking long-term and also in the shorter term. So when it comes to nutrition, and for me, and my different things, it's kind of more based off of events that happen in the future. My most recent example that I can think of was I was doing it's March now. While we're recording this, it's March. So I think it was about 6 months ago, which would be October, right?
Sure. Yeah. September. Yeah. Math.
Somewhere in there. I was in a race and it was a team relay race. I had to run 5 miles, and looking at that goal, so I knew that was happening then. I backed up close to 6 months and thought, okay, I just need to be able to run well enough over the next 6 months. So that way, when I get to that time, I can run X number of minute per mile to try and help my team win. And that's kind of the bigger thing, is looking ahead and then backing yourself up to an appropriate, achievable amount of time. Now, granted, for me at that time, that just meant maintaining my level of ability over that time. But kind of the other things too, like trying to set myself up so that way I knew exactly what I had to do on a race day and the day before race day. So that way, when it got to the time for that race, I knew this is what helps me feel the best in a day. So if I wake up if I have X number of hours of sleep, and when I wake up, I have this for meal and this on and on. So that way, when it gets to the race time, I can back up and say, this is what I need to do the day before, eating wise, from a nutrition focused plan. That way I can do that. So generally speaking, like I was saying before, I like running nutrition programs closer to 3 months minimally and kind of 6 months longitudinally when we're thinking about things, because in 3 months, you're going to see some amount of changes. In 6 months, you're going to see greater changes. But things that are really short, like 4 weeks or so, that's kind of in that earlier thing that I was talking about with adding a piece of fruit, adding a serving of vegetables, switching your grains over. After about a month, you should have gotten through all of those kind of newbie sets of things with nutrition. So that way you can get closer to a long-term goal.
Absolutely. And you're talking about kind of having the end game goal. I like to sometimes set up programs based off of when that break needs to happen as well. Like not even for necessarily like this big event, but say for instance, if I'm traveling, I'm going on vacation for a week. Like I go, okay, I don't want to be in the middle of a program when I know, hey, I may not have access to all the equipment I normally would have. All right, let's back it up. Let's see. All right, if that's my end goal is to be done and have my break week that week, let's program backwards from there.
Yeah. And so selfish talk here currently. I am going on vacation in about just under 3 months. And so I started my own new exercise regimen yesterday. And it's just total body workouts 3 days a week. Currently so remember I have 12 weeks here roughly for that. So 6 weeks of it is going to be 3 days a week. And then 6 weeks of it is going to be 4 days a week, where I switch from total body to upper lower. And that's going to be personally, just for me, like I said, from self standpoint. So that way, when I stand on a beach in 12 weeks, I don't look like crap. That's just completely for me. And also it helps me feel better.
So then if we want to set that SMART goal, we've got to delve in and go, okay, what's not look like crap to you? So what are we working towards?
Right. Yeah. So that's the whole thing from a nutrition standpoint. Like I said, I do a lot with percentages. So I have not taken circumference measurements or skin fold sites. So that comes down to a precision versus accuracy thing, which we go on for a long time. There's like classes built around that. But the person that would most likely take my circumference measurements and my skin fold measurements would be my wife. And I would see where that ends up. So for those of you out there, if you purchase a really cheap skin fold caliber, it's probably like plus or minus 6 or 7%. Like it's going to be like way off. Yeah. But here's the whole thing. It may not be accurate, but if you have it under take the test under the same circumstances, the same person, the same scenarios, you're going to get some amount of precision. So even though it's off, like your actual percentage may be wrong, but you're going to have a measurable thing for you. So you can do, and that's also where circumference measurements come in that are helpful, whether it's a waist circumference or upper thigh circumference, arm circumference, that kind of thing. You can measure those things. Under the certain set of circumstances, you just kind of do them the same way. So currently I weigh 193.2 pounds. That's what I weighed this morning. And I don't have those other measurables, but I'm going to say what doesn't look like crap to Ryan is that I'll be probably closer to 188 pounds, somewhere around 10 to 12% body fat. And that's from those things are controlled by nutrition a lot, like what you're eating to get there.
Yep.
And so that's kind of the measurables that I have for that. But then also from a visual standpoint, which I tell people this all the time, one of the hardest things to do, we're all our own worst critics, but is if you stand in front of a mirror, can you say 3 things that you like about yourself? And working on that and doing that every day does a lot of things to, one, help you realize that you are an incredible person. You do have things that are great about you. People do love you and appreciate you. And it's also important for you to love and appreciate yourself. But also being able to shine a light on all those things will also be like, yeah, maybe I need to can I fine tune this muscle so that way it shows a little bit more. And that goes
coming at it from a scientific approach instead of you're not basing your own personal value based off of what that muscle looks like, and coming from industries that we're in, and the fitness industry, coming big time from the professional wrestling industry, a lot of times it's very easy to base your emotional and mental health and well-being off of what you look like in the mirror, which is not ever a good thing. not a whole lot comes out of that.
Right. And so that's the whole thing. So like I have 2 6-week programs that I'm running, but it's just to get to a 12-week goal. Right. And so, and on, like Matt was saying before, like I'm going to be on vacation. So at best scenario, I'll have bands and maybe a kettlebell, maybe if I remember to put it in the car amongst all of my children's things. But
have one of the kids lug it. You're good. That's
funny enough. My oldest son did just like pick up a kettlebell and walk it over, and he's like, "I'm going to work out like you." And I was like, "Oh, this is excellent." And of course, then he put it down and picked up a cardboard tube and was like, "It's a tape measure." And I was like, "That's not it at all." But whatever.
Sure.
Sure. If you believe it's a tape measure, remember that tube is about 72 inches currently. So before you bang it on something, it rips in half. But yeah, in the worst case scenario, I'll just be doing body weight workouts while I'm at the beach. We go every year with my in-laws, my wife's family. All of them are cardio people, fanatics. So I am not.
I look at cardio people the way people look at me when I do crazy violent stuff in wrestling. I'm just like, oh, you run? Oh, no. Like, what's wrong with you?
Like, I do not want to run for 4 miles every day. It's not part of my.
Which is so funny to hear you say that, because since your first love and passion with athletics was running.
Yeah, well, I would say it was my first passion and love with athletics. It's what I first realized could get me somewhere and make me money. All right. So as far as athletics is concerned, I thought that was going to give me a full ride in college, which it didn't. And then I started being a pro wrestler, which definitely does not
got even less money.
Not even close. But either way, and then also like the longer length of time there. When we were talking about taking program breaks and things, your body's musculature typically dictates that you're going to need to take a break at some point in time.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, nobody knows your body better than you. Like, listen to your body. When your joints are screaming, your muscles are aching, it's okay to take a break. I'm a big fan of programming that break in there, and sometimes you need to tinker with it a little bit based on how your body's feeling. I'm a big fan of there's a lot of differing research out there. Always tell people that's the great thing about research in our realms. For every bit of research you read, you can find something that refutes it. But I'm a big fan of deloading weeks, where you find a way to decrease the intensity. And the easiest way for me, I love doing, is taking what I've been lifting for a certain rep range. Say that I've been doing 3 sets of 10 on everything, to keep it simple. I take 50% of what I've been lifting, and I do 3 sets of 10. So mentally it drives me nuts, because I'm like, hey, I know I'm capable of a lot more than this. Why don't I just keep doing more sets or doing more reps? Like, no, like, just do it. And it gives your central nervous system a break. It gives your joints a break, and you'll go back in that next week and boom, you're ready to hit the ground running, and your body's had a little bit of a break, and you've still actually managed to go to the gym zone.
Yeah. And I can tell you, earlier we were talking about, I was doing stuff with the program in the low bar squat. I did 8 weeks of 20 rep squats, like one set of 20 reps on a low bar squat. There is, personally, in my mind, so this is just anecdotal, there is no better exercise to challenge your mental fortitude than standing under a load and doing 20 reps with it.
You find out a lot about yourself mentally and emotionally and physically doing that, because you're just like, when I squat, I prefer to do heavier weight, lower rep, just because I'm done, like, hey, if I'm only doing 5 reps on this, I've only got to be under it 5 times.
Right. Yeah. And so then that's the whole thing. And so then you got to get to a certain point while you're in that zone. I did it for 8 weeks. And after that, it was time for at least a mental break. Like I could not continue to do.
Yeah, you're burned out. Yeah, if not, mentally, if nothing else.
Yeah, no negating, any changes to my central nervous system at that point in time, or any of the other musculature things that changed over that period of time. Sometimes it's just the mental break of you're not trying to push for the next thing. And I can tell you from a lot of you guys out there that are probably listening, one of the things that's hard about when you're coming back to fitness is mentally not going beyond what you could do. So, for example, if I know that I could probably do like over 200 pounds on a bench press right now, like probably could do it, probably wouldn't be too bad of a problem. But because I haven't been doing it for a long period of time, if I try to jump out there and do 200 pounds now in like 2 days, I'm probably still going to be too sore to like get back under the bar. And you really, that's some of the hardest point is like realizing that you are your own competition. And
checking your ego at the door is definitely one of the most difficult parts about exercise and about a fitness routine.
Yeah. In every, we talked a couple of episodes back about what's the difference between novice, intermediate, and advanced. In every novice program, you're going to see that it does kind of the exact same thing in the first week to 2, maybe even up to 4 weeks, where you're doing the exact same stuff. Oh. And you're going to see a lot of progression over that period of time. Like we talked about that earlier, you're going to see some massive gains. But if you literally went in for the first week, and if it was the same set of, we'll say that it's total body 3 days a week, and then the next week you just continue to do that for 4 weeks, right? So that's like a novice program, right? Total body. If you did the exact same weight on every single lift for the first week, then the next week your body's going to be primed to increase the weight. So that's kind of linear progression style. But after 4 weeks, maybe you've maxed out those lifts and you need to switch it up. Or maybe not. Maybe you can continue on the linear progression, but at some point in time, it's going to start dictating that you've capped out on your linear progression. You can't just keep adding 5 pounds to everything.
Right. And then that's where you can change exercises, change the rep range, change a number of different things, and start overcoming that plateau.
Right. So to answer our beginning question, how long would I run a program for? If it's nutrition related, at least 3 months at minimum, at longest 6 months. And this goes in both directions. So if you're trying to gain weight or you're trying to lose weight, and then it might be time for a break. There's a lot of research around 4 weeks for dieting, and to where you're dieting to lose weight, where if you take 4 weeks at reduction of calories, then a week of a break off, then another 4 weeks, and repeat that, so on and so forth, that you'll have a greater amount over time. I really don't like working people through longer than 6 weeks on a weight loss thing, because a lot of times you're gonna get too low in calories for that to make sense, and you'll have to reverse out your way back up to an adequate number of calories. And that's kind of where the longer term comes in. Before I got married, I was 212 pounds, and I went from eating about 3,000 calories every day to eating 5,000 calories every day. And the funny thing that I did was, it was on the same beach trip. I was eating 5,000 calories that week, and then I started cutting to lose weight to get into a smaller size tuxedo, but also looking better when I was on my honeymoon. And I lost the 12 pounds over that it was longer than that. It was 3 months. It was 12 pounds over 3 months. So 12 pounds over 12 weeks. I lost about a pound a week, but I was eating like 2,500 calories every day and still losing weight. slowly losing weight over that whole time.
Sustainable. You can actually put it within your lifestyle.
Right. You know, so still eating the same volume of food, but it took to get up to 5,000 calories. It took me almost like 8 or 10 weeks of adding calories in slowly to get up there. That's a slow process. And it's supposed to be that way so that way you don't gain a lot of weight. Like I went from 211 to 212 across that 10 weeks, and I added 2,000 calories to my diet. Like, you know, it's diligent. You know, you got to have a goal in mind.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of my thing. If I was programming nutrition, I would say 3 to 6 months, and then it's time for a break. And kind of what Matt was alluding to earlier, you know, if you look ahead and you can see something on a calendar, or you know that something's coming up, you can plan backwards from that.
Yeah, and with a strength training program, I'm usually looking at anywhere between 4 and 12 weeks for a program, 12 being definitely on the longer side. But again, depending on the goals, depending on when you want it to end, all that good stuff. So 4 to 12, so 1 to 4 months.
Right. Yeah. And that all makes sense. Like if you are an advanced lifter, like if you've gotten to that point in time, like you're looking close to that longer range of stuff. But if you're still in a novice / early intermediate kind of phase, like you might be able to get away with a 1 to 2 month fitness plan. And then when you make a change, you're still going to see a great set of gains come out of that.
With the Z, gains.
Yeah. All the gains. Yeah, man. Speaking of Z, Z press, if any of you are not doing that, highly recommend you look that up and challenge yourself. How much weight can you really press on the Z press?
Oh, geez, I haven't done that in forever. Okay. All right.
It's a fun task of like questioning how good you are at what you do.
Oh, that's a check your ego. Yeah.
The comedy of while I was doing it and just laughing at myself sitting there on the floor doing the Z press with plates. So I use plates for that press instead of dumbbells because that's what I have easier access to. And also it makes it a little bit harder if you use plates or kettlebell, and you keep the plate parallel to your arm. So completely vertical to the ground or perpendicular to the ground, I guess. And you press it up. The shakiness with very small sums of weight.
Yep.
I just put the weight down, just laugh at myself. Like if I wasn't sitting on the floor, this would be really easy, but it's clearly because it takes your legs out of the whole lift. Like that's obviously what's helping you out. But yeah, fun stuff. Z press, highly recommend, tons of fun. But either way, like we were saying, so if it's a nutrition program, 3 to 6 months, taking a break. If it's a fitness program, 1 to 3 months. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us at Franchise Nutrition and Fitness. Remember, you can find us at franchisenutritionandfitness.com. Again, that's franchisenutritionandfitness.com. And hit us up. If you got any questions about anything, go down to the bottom, check the contact page, or go ahead and sign up for your free meet and greet so we can get you started today. Again, franchisenutritionandfitness.com. Maximize every bite, maximize every rep.